another episode of Blue Review. We are all together again. That means Greg Bergman, Clinton Yates, and of course, Parker Bell, myself. We are here to talk Dodgers. We're excited to have everyone back. Of course, as always, Blue Review is presented by Los Angeles International Airport. Hire LAX can create life-changing career opportunities for LA residents. And for more information, guys, check out Hire LAX on Eventbrite. So I'm just going to hand this over to you guys. Of course, tough news breaks down on the weekend. Starting pitcher Julio Urías arrested for a domestic violence charge, taken out on bail for $50,000. Guys, I'm going to start with you, Greg. I saw your tweet, and I know where you stand, and I know where everyone stands in this scenario. Please, let's hear it.
Yeah, so this is a really tough situation, and obviously we have to put out the caveat that not all the information is out yet, right? You have to put it out there, whether or not it's right or not. The problem is as long as it's domestic violence, and this is his second time doing it, he's done. There has to be a hard line stance when it comes to domestic violence, and especially on the second time. If a guy hits a woman, no sports for you. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's one of the Dodgers, if it's somebody from somewhere else. Hitting a woman is never right. And if that is what it comes out, that's the video show and all that is, they all find out when he goes to court on September 27th, he is done. I don't think he's played baseball again. He's made $30 million. And that's enough money to create your own life, to do something different with your life. But baseball is out of the picture for you, and especially not with the Dodgers, Clinton.
You know, there's a part of this where there's a moral high ground we can stand on in terms of what we believe for our own lives, in terms of what we would carry or how we would carry ourselves as human beings, never mind as men. But then there's the reality of professional sports, number one. And then there's the reality of, the Los Angeles Dodgers. And that's where this becomes a very difficult situation. This led to 10 o'clock news last night. This was front page news locally. And the second time thing, it's hard to say at the same time, Greg, a zero tolerance stance, but you've gotten to a second time. Not to mention, this obviously brings up the idea of what is not exactly directly related, but similarly related, which was Trevor Bauer. The Dodgers are in the business of giving people second chances. And there's a thought from me here where this, listen, you come out of a weekend in which you had to have some games against a pretty good team, and your headline is a guy doing something arguably worse than what happened the first time when you gave him a chance. That doesn't look good. And I think at this point, there is a larger spin that this franchise is going to have to find in order to sort of make people think that this is a priority for them. Because remember, that Trevor Bauer situation hung around for a long time before they ever were decisive about it. And this Urías situation, the details do matter here. The first one was a circumstance that happened in public, away from things, presumably, or, allegedly at the Beverly Center. This apparently happened at BMO Field during a freaking messy LAFC game. That's a whole
in public.
That's a whole other level of embarrassing. And so for me, I'm looking at the Dodgers here. The message and the optics are going to be important because to me, it's a given. He should not be playing baseball. That is one thing. But also, if I'm a fan, I need to know how the team is going to handle this in terms of what they say. They put out a couple tweets and said, we've been made aware of a situation. I'd like a little bit more information than that. Not because I think anybody needs to be publicly taken to task beyond Urías himself, but I do think there is something that is there where you can make people feel better about, hey, I'd really like to believe you're getting rid of this guy for the right reasons and not just because he's struggling this year and coming up on a contract year and this happens to dovetail with it.
See, so what Urías is in a different situation than all these other ones, right? Where he's a free agent at the end of the year. Sure. So you can see what the Dodgers are going to do is basically just wait. They're going to wait as long as they possibly can. They're going to you can't put out information without getting the full information. So they're going to sit there and they're going to say, we are aware. They're going to put him on the administrators list or whatever that is. And then he's never going to pitch again. And the season is going to end and he's just a free agent and he's gone and he just goes away. If this was somebody like that had a contract for a long time, it might be a little bit different, but this is what's going to happen because that's the situation that they're in. It is not, I don't think it's because he's struggling this year. And then when they can finally put out that information and they have all of the information, they will. But right now, it seems like it's just going to be we're going to wait till we hear we're going to put on administrative leave. We are going to wait till we get all the information, and then you just kind of go away.
I mean, perhaps, but let's not forget, we didn't learn about Trevor Bauer's details and all that from the team. We learned about that from journalism. And the only reason I say all of this is because—
and we'll get it.
Urías is a very popular player. He's a player whose jersey, was there was a lot that went on with him specifically from his heritage as a Mexican to who he was as a fan. And I do feel, yes, there's a certain sort of, I don't want to say legal standard in terms of putting out information, but it's entirely possible that the Dodgers know a lot more than they're letting on. And I don't need to learn everything from the Dodgers. That's not what I'm getting at here. But this is just a situation for me where I'd like a little more than the average. Hey, we'll wait until we see what happens, because this is the second time. And I just feel that you're trending towards something where if it feels like guys are getting a 1 too many second chances and guys are conveniently just leaving without any real explanation from the Dodgers other than we've got to let the system take its course, I just feel that doesn't really feel good overall in the general discussion of what we're trying to do here regarding people who are abusers being in sports. It's a difficult spot. I get it. Legally, there's potential implications, but at this time, I don't feel good about how this looks for the franchise, never mind the player. It's tough.
I'm in complete agreement with you. Yeah. I don't think everything that we're seeing here, I would love to know more, obviously, but from every other reports, everything out there, I can't imagine that it's anything less than terrible. That's what it looks like. And because of that, they should eventually take a hardline stance. They have to let the process play out. That's just the way that sports and just anything in general works. Not even sports. It's just business.
They don't have to, Greg. They don't have to. This is not the court of law. They could easily say, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're just not playing for us. And that could be said. And I know that it won't be said, but this is, and I'm not saying if you don't do that, then you're not showing respect to victims or whatever. I don't believe that. No, but what I'm saying is
they're really good about this.
It could be done. It could be done, and we'll see. That's kind of where I'm at on that, So
yeah, and I hope so, because honestly, if everything comes out the way that it's supposed to be, I don't think he should ever pitch again in Major League Baseball. Right. You hit a woman, no sports for you. It's very, very straightforward to me.
Yeah, that's just not a stance that the Dodgers have taken up until this point.
Well, I mean, they kind of have. It happened with Trevor Bauer. They had to play out the process, but they did not let him pitch.
But there are people that viewed him getting to the team at all as part of the issue. And if a guy like Urías gets a second chance, you know what I'm saying? It's like
third. Well, I'm not in disagreement with you. I'm not in disagreement with you at all. I think we're saying the same thing. It's just it's a horrible, horrible situation, and it shouldn't be happening, period, in this world, let alone as in its sports. No place for it.
I think we're all in agreement here. Clint, I also get what you're saying. And I think it's a bigger picture issue. It's not just the microcosmic Dodgers issue. This is an MLB issue. It's been going on. I think you could date back to 2015. There's too much domestic violence.
The old boy who threw the perfect game or what have you for the Yankees. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
exactly.
He's in rehab now with an alcohol issue, but the main reason we even knew who he was because of a domestic violence issue. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. You're right, Parker. There's a larger thing we're looking at here, not just in baseball, but in sports, about are we really giving second chances? And are second chances really something we should be giving in these cases is really a question that's difficult to answer. And I think the Dodgers, for lack of a better term in Major League Baseball, are the team that's had to answer it more than most. And that's a really difficult position to be in.
Look, it's the same thing with every sport. With domestic violence, apparently they don't want it to be the people that fight domestic violence. They don't want you to be hardline stance of zero tolerance policy. I think there should be a zero tolerance policy, but they're saying that if you do it that way, then the woman will never come out because they'll be paid off or whatever situation it may be. But it doesn't make it right.
Yeah, it's a difficult scenario.
It's awful.
And with that being said, Clinton, for lack of being tacky, moving forward, Walker, he puts out a pretty good 2-inning outing in AAA. Is this kind of where the Dodgers will be moving forward to the playoffs? You hate to have this conversation so soon, but you have to think the starting pitching was just such an issue against the Braves. Dave Roberts noticeably said, I'm sorry, but the numbers don't lie. What do the Dodgers do moving forward?
Greg, I would say that the Dodgers are in what we would qualify as a desperation situation from a roster standpoint. And
Yep.
that's really difficult because you hate to see how it happened that way. But for the purposes of discussion, if it were an injury, if it were, a family emergency, like something went wrong that wasn't at the hands, no pun intended, remotely, of Urías, like either way, they're in a real hole from a staff standpoint. And I don't really know what you do in this situation, to be honest. Like, structurally, I'm not sure if you're allowed anything extra as a result of something that happens with a player that's on your roster. But at this point, I don't think it's realistic to talk about this team making a deep run at all, because who are you going to get? You know what I'm saying? Like, they were already in a position where you were kind of just hoping you didn't run into a team like the Braves. Well, you saw what happened when you literally hosted the Braves, and now you're down a guy that was a critical part of your rotation. It's been a rough week for the Los Angeles Dodgers in more ways than one, Greg.
Yeah, it really has been. And then Urias put a ton of pressure on Walker Buehler specifically now. When he could have come back and been a little bit, taking his time a little bit, now he has to come back and he has to be ready immediately. He has to be the second or third starter now out of nowhere. And you can't expect that out of him. Bobby Miller has been fantastic. He was great on Sunday against the Braves. He's been really, really good over his last one, but he's still a rookie, and you don't know how he'll perform in the postseason. So you're in a tough position of Kershaw, Miller, Buehler, and that's not where you want to be. That's not enough, and probably going to be a quick exit.
That's right. Well, guys, the Dodgers have their first big test today against the Marlins, who are only a half game back of the Reds and the Diamondbacks for that last wild card spot. So it's going to be tough. We'll see if the Dodgers can bounce back mentally and physically from this last weekend. Guys, this has been the Blue Review. Gregory Bergman, Clinton Yates, and Parker Bell for you. As always, we're sponsored by LAX. Catch you next time.